Well, the first step in rigging is building a skeleton, and I'm sure you're thinking, a skeleton seems awfully ambitious for a cardboard box. They aren't really known for having bones and joints. But here's why it's going to be really helpful. In all of your 3D applications and all of your animation applications, a joint is just a hinge. It's a rotation point. So for this box, I have all of these points where the box does hinge. If I look at this edge right here, that's going to be a hinge between the base of the box and this flap right here. And then there's another set of hinges between the side of the box and the actual flap that you use to open the box. So what I need to do in my rig is I need to create little rotation points, and joints are easily the best way to do that. So all I'm going to do for starters is move from modeling into rigging, and that gives me my rigging menus across the top. I've got skeleton, which is where I can make my joints. It'll let me do some other things that are joint specific as well. For example, I will be able to mirror joints, which is super useful. It means I only have to build half a skeleton. Orient joint is a handy tool that will cause all of my joints to rotate using the same axis, which is great. We'll be doing that periodically. You'll note that I've skipped insert. I'm also going to skip remove and connect and disconnect because all of those are hierarchic functions of the joint chain, which means that I can do them outside of this menu more easily than I can inside the menu, so I'm not going to bother. Speaking of hierarchy, Reroute Skeleton is a handy tool. It will allow you to change the starting point of your joint hierarchy. You've probably seen the word hierarchy before. It's something that you heard maybe in your history class when you talked about the feudal system, but it comes in handy in all of your animation applications because it sets up an easy way to organize all of your data. And data organization is the #1 thing that you care about once you move past the basics and into the more advanced areas, like rigging. That's as far as I'm going to go for today. We're going to leave the IK and all of the rest of this for another day. This is a quick little aperitif. So all I want to do is come in here, and in this video I'm exclusively going to talk about the skeleton. So for this box, all I need to do is create a base joint, which based on this command we know is called a root joint. For that, I'm going to start create joints running. I'm just going to hold down X, X is snap to grid, and I'm going to snap my first point right to the origin, which should be the exact dead center of the box. It's nice to get this joint centered on the grid as well. That'll help keep the box on the floor. So this joint is going to be my root joint, and I'll just call it root joint, that's fine. Then I'm going to start my next joint chain. I can use any of my modeling panes. I think I will use the front view first. If your front view doesn't look like this, please remember that 6 is shaded mode, 4 is unshaded, 5 is unshaded, and 4 is wireframe. I like using wireframe for this because it lets me see where my structure is. So I will start create joints again so I can make a new chain. And the first point I'm going to snap to the grid just so that I know it's level with the root. The second joint I want to put right in here where I think this hinge is going to be. Ooh, looks really big when you zoom in. And the third point I'm going to zoom in and get this flap right here. Now I'll press enter to end the chain. And that's what my joint chain looks like. I used the front view, but I drew along the side here because that will center me on this short side. So I know that this is a series of short side joints, so let's call this one short side. You know what, let's give it a JT suffix because we know it's a joint. We'll call this one short flap joint, and this one, this is just the end. We don't actually care about the end joint. I don't even necessarily want to bind it to my skeleton because the end joint in any chain is going to orient slightly differently to all of the other joints. So maybe I'll call this one short end, and I just won't give it any kind of suffix. Now, when I look at these joints here, I know that I put the first one kind of in the wrong spot. So I'm going to take it, I want to move this joint, but if you use your normal move tool, that will move the entire chain, and I really just want to move this one joint. So I'm going to press D, D as in dog, and that will move me into pivot manipulation mode. Just pull that right in there and press D again to leave pivot manipulation mode. You may want to just check on your other joint placements, make sure they're good. And I think mine are fine. So when you're happy with the way your joints are placed, I can see that this one looks a little funny. It's kind of angled off to the side and it really shouldn't be. This is a great time for me to run skeleton orient joint, and that's going to redo the way that the joint is rotating so that it can be a little bit straighter and squarer. Now I need to do one more joint chain the same way, so this time I'm going to come over to my side view, and here in the side view I'll do the same thing, create joints. I will hold down X to snap the first one to the grid, and then get in nice and close here and put the second one right in the middle where the flap starts, and then the third one's going to go right here at the very tip of the flap. I will press enter, zoom back out. This first joint is out of place. I just need to press D, D as in dog, move it into place, D again, orient joint. And now this one is one of the long flaps, so we'll call this one long side joint. Then this one's going to be long flap joint. Oh, it's always good to make sure you're consistent, so I will give that one an uppercase JT, and this will be long, and then I won't bother giving it a JT. So in this video, I made a root joint and I made joint chains for 2 of the sides. I named all of the joints and I used pivot manipulation mode, the D key, to move joints around. And then I ran orient joint to make sure that all of the joints were kind of facing in the same direction. I'm going to pause here to let you get that far. And when we come back, we will move on to completing this skeleton.